6.5 Summit Cloud Infrastructure Spotlight. Excited to have this conversation with Karan Batta, SVP at Oracle. We're going to talk a little bit about multi-cloud and AI. Karan, good to see you again. It's been a minute, but always love having our conversations.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Daniel. Excited to talk all things cloud.
So I've spent a lot of time over the last few years having conversations. Oracle went through this pretty significant transformation in its own strategy. The cloud business has been explosive, among the fastest growing each and every quarter. We track that very closely. But for a while, it was kind of like among the peers, everyone was sort of running their own race. It was like AWS, Google, Microsoft, Oracle. We're going to get as big as we can. We are going to try to dominate our markets. We are going to convince the world that everyone only needs our cloud to do everything. And then all of a sudden, there was a bit of an aha, and Oracle had a big aha, over the last couple of years, and last year in a really big way, where you went kind of all in on multi-cloud, made some big partnerships, announced with all the major hyperscalers, and I mean, I'm sure it had a lot to do with how important your database is to so many of their enterprise clients. But I just want to kind of start there because I don't think people necessarily really stopped and kind of smelled the moment when that took place. But you were one of the ones that kind of went from that no, we're going to be very much a walled garden to no, we are all in on multi-cloud. It happened really, really quickly. As you expanded all your partnerships, kind of what drove that, and how do you see that kind of just in the near term, evolving into the application space?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks. I think, it's been a journey, right? I mean, multi-cloud, I think for us, I think it's simplistic now when we talk about database, but really, we started this journey 5 years ago. We didn't even think about database at the time. What we really wanted to accomplish was in the old days, when you used to go build a private cloud, you used to be able to go buy different parts of things from different vendors. You could buy a switch, you could buy a host, you could buy some storage, you could buy some different pieces of software. You could collaborate it together and build a private cloud with many different vendors. That world didn't really exist in the cloud, right? It was sort of like everybody was playing Hungry Hungry Hippo, like you said. Everybody was like, well, if you are going to come to my cloud, you should use everything from my cloud. And I'm going to make it extremely expensive to move out of my cloud. You have to buy everything and you have to be all in on my cloud, right? So it became very hard for the customer to pick and choose one or two, features or services from one cloud as a decision point. We wanted to break down some of those barriers, right? We started with, let's say, networking as an example. Customers should have the freedom to move their data around. They started moving their data around. So, we signed an interconnect agreement with Microsoft. No money exchanged hands, but it was the ability for customers to treat two regions as a singular entity so that customers could move data around. Now fast forward to now, we now have a host of data services now available through all three clouds. So I think that journey has taken a long time. It's been breaking down small little barriers. But the goal really was to enable choice for our customers. Of course, our database is the market leading database out there, but also to give customers the ability to pick and choose the best of breed from every cloud and just use whatever cloud they want. So that means interoperability, integration, data movement. I'm not even talking about databases yet, right? So it's all these other things that combine it to make it a multi-cloud experience for a customer.
Yeah, I'm still playing Hungry Hungry Hippos in my head, thinking back to my youth. No, but it's interesting because now, Karan, we're in this inflection with AI. So you spent the last, almost decade building out OCI Gen 2. I think Gen 2 was such a pinnacle moment, where it really started to turn and that great growth ensued. But then AI came, and AI is like, oh, we're going to build a whole new data center. You have a great partnership with NVIDIA, but you listen to Jensen, and it almost makes it sound like everything you've done in the past is almost like stop, pause, cutoff point. You've now got to build these new AI factories from the ground up, new architecture, new applications, agents. Talk a little bit about that because you've gone big. You've got Stargate, of course, you were mentioned as part of that project. Talk about the approach there because this seems like it's almost a moment to take everything you've learned, but to almost start over and try to become you know, the cloud company of the AI era, which almost seems like a new race.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. I think if you look at our past history, it'll be 10 years for OCI next year, like almost a decade. And, we started with our core fundamentals of what makes OCI, really great for infrastructure customers, which was extremely high performance for very affordable economics, right? We wanted to marry the best of what you get with private cloud or your on-premise clusters and marry it with the benefits that you get from a cloud. That was always the sort of the kind of a core tenet of how we built OCI. So when we built OCI, that's the same thing with Exadata, right? We have IB and Exadata as an example, where you have a database cluster. We used the same technology to enable HPC several years ago, where customers could come in, they could launch HPC clusters, and then the AI advent sort of started of, whatever it was like, or, when ChatGPT came out, and suddenly that became a thing. And we used similar technology and expanded that, right? It became, we were already invested down that path, which was extreme performance. So I think the scale is just different now, right? We're talking about, 120, 130,000 GPUs per a single cluster. When you're building something that big, the focus goes away from just sort of, one part to the entire thing, from all the way down from construction, construction of the physical buildings, how they're interconnected, all the way up to things like liquid cooling and sort of the loop that goes around in the buildings, all the way to the network build out, and then even software based operations. So when you're running 100,000 GPUs in a cluster for a single training job, you got to make sure everything runs, you know, everything runs at the right time. Everything is running without any issue, because one GP goes down, your entire training job can go down, right? So there's a lot of work and effort being put into software operations, automation, making sure things are up and running, what your RMA process is going to be. If a GP goes down, how you're going to be able to replace it quickly and restart the job. So yes, there's the sort of the core engineering aspect of, working with your partners like NVIDIA, but then there's an ecosystem of technology that we have to invest in. So there's a lot of work to do, and the scale continues to grow. Of course, we've been talking a lot about um, how our cluster sizes are growing. With Blackwell GPUs, there's liquid cooling. So there's a whole set of new problems to solve in the next several years.
There are, and it's exciting. It's creating a huge opportunity on a global scale. Things that you've been doing, like regional, like zones, like OCI, seem to really be perfectly aligned to where we're going to have to head with sovereign AI. And it just kind of the way it's been thought about. There are some parallels, and of course, compute that's done on CPU is not going to disappear overnight. I mean, in fact, there's still this very symbiotic relationship between CPUs and GPUs, but it is very clearly a new architecture. The way it's being built, the way software is being designed, the way power has to be considered, thermals, everything that a data center used to be and what it will be is going to be different. Um, one of the interesting things about Oracle, though, too, is you're not just an infrastructure company. You are not just a database. You're also an applications company. And Gen AI was kind of the rage for a few years. It still is, but you're sort of seeing this transformational moment now. Another inflection where generative and agentic, it's morphing into, we're going to have basically agents working alongside us. And then maybe if we're lucky, next year you and I won't even have to come for this conversation. We'll just know you. It'll know me. We'll do this. It'll you know, come on, a couple of guys can dream. We could be out at the racetrack, right? Whatever it is we want to do. But like, talk a little bit about how Oracle is thinking about generative AI agents, across your stack.
Yeah, I mean, I think you pointed out a really important thing, that Oracle's not just an infrastructure company or a cloud company. I mean, we're a cloud company, but we're also a applications company, right? That's something that our competitors don't have. Is we have the applications, and we also have the infrastructure side by side. Our Fusion apps and our vertical applications, such as healthcare with Cerner, or retail and Micros and finance. So the advantage that gives us is, number one, all those applications can run on the same infrastructure side by side, your clusters that are also running the training. And then on top of that, we have the world's most popular database where all of your data sits. So Imagine a world where, as a customer, as an enterprise customer, you can use our platform services. We have a Gen AI service where we offer things like Llama, Mistral, the usual set of models. We recently announced Grok as well. So you can essentially do RAG, point your database to it, retrain your models, and then you can also build agents using our agent platform as well. So there's the external customer component, but also internally at Oracle, Daniel, what we're doing is we're injecting all of that intelligence into our applications too. So we've got hundreds of agents that we've already built across all of our applications and Fusion SaaS, like an agent to help you with supply chain, an agent to help you with patient data, an agent to help you with public safety. These agents are already embedded in our applications, and they allow for much more optimized use of those applications. So we've sort of got a multiple pronged strategy with the apps, the infrastructure, and the platform, depending on who the user is.
Yeah, and I like how you kind of brought that together on our side, and we've been evaluating the agent space from the very beginning, and there's sort of these different approaches of where agentic will be adopted in the organization, Kron. And so, you know, if you kind of look at first blush, a lot of the early came out of applications. It was like, we're going to build an agent inside an application, and you're using this SaaS platform or this enterprise tool, we'll give you an agent. And then there's the bit of the other side is we'll deliver it from the infrastructure level, build the agents at the platform level on the infrastructure a little bit more agnostically to whatever application, because companies don't have, if you end up having to buy agents for every software you have in your enterprise, that probably doesn't scale super well, right? So it starts to look a little bit like almost how we did like virtualization and stuff, like where you kind of want to have more of a platform and a middleware layer. And then you have these companies that are kind of saying, well, we'll do it just that way. We're not really either infrastructure or app, but we'll be the agent layer. So it's going to be kind of an interesting thing to watch how this sort of diffuses. Because what I know for sure is like people are going to want to streamline this. They are not going to want to have an agent with every application and every cloud that they're in. They're going to want to get that down. So that's going to be really interesting. Oracle being full stack sits in a pretty good situation where you can come at it through apps, you can come at it through data, the database and ERP layer, and you can also come at it through infrastructure. So that certainly positions you well, makes you a bit more of a wild card to really have an even bigger role than maybe what, you know, some of the names that kind of are sort of synonymous all the time with AI. Um, let's talk a little bit about your global scale. I sort of teased out sovereign AI. You guys have a massive sort of modular approach. I think you're at like 200 regions or something at this point. And you've done it in a pretty short period of time. You're sort of going zones, regions happen in a very short period of time. How have you kind of approached this? How have you done it so quickly? And what's your sort of strategy to addressing your regions and zone and how you're picking?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think regional availability is a probably one of the most critical parts of number one, it's really a big portion of why we are where we are today. When we started in 2016 in OCI, we could have all the greatest services in the world, but if they're not available where the customers want them, we would have not had a seat at the table, right? So we had a need to build, deploy regions as fast as possible in the locations that our customers wanted for various reasons, whether it's latency and performance, whether it's security, data sovereignty needs, lots of different reasons, right? And so we invested over a decade's worth of engineering time in actually scaling down our region footprint, right? So we had a need ourselves. We wanted to deploy lots and lots of regions everywhere, right? Think of a world map and like there's dots in every single city on the planet, right? Not just big hubs or big regions and short number of like two regions in US and two in Europe. No, we wanted a region, an OCI region in every part of the world, in every city of the world, right? So for us, we had to spend a lot of time scaling down our region footprint so we could fit our entire public cloud into a single rack, let's say as a North Star goal, right? We're very close now. 10 years in, we can do it in 3 racks, right? We announced dedicated region 25 last October, which basically means a customer can deploy 3 racks and get our entire public cloud footprint. Now, of course, they can modularly scale that out. Of course, we did it for ourselves to deploy more regions, but it just so happens that customers love that and they want to be able to do that themselves as well for themselves. So We ended up deploying dedicated region, and then we built on top of that, right? Because customers were like, well, with sort of the geopolitical space that you mentioned, in Europe, as an example, a lot of the countries are making these workloads, government workloads or mission critical workloads, sovereign, right? So if you're, in Germany and you're an automotive company, you cannot run in a public cloud that is, a US company. You have to run a local public cloud. Well, we had Alloy, so we could take the DRCC footprint, give a partner resale rights, and they can be a wholly owned subsidiary inside that country and provide a cloud, right? So truly, it's actually opened up a lot of different avenues from us, from not just DRCC, Alloy, our own region footprint. um, Edge no longer has to be scaled down to just a few services. Why can't Edge be the whole cloud, as an example, right? Why can't you deploy everything in the Edge, as an example? Also multi-cloud, right? There are some regions where we may not have a parent site where our partners are. Well, that's great. Now we can just deploy a very quick region. So it actually opens up a lot of different avenues, not just sovereign security, data sovereignty, but also just the reach of all of our cloud.
Well, Karan, we have just a couple of minutes left. I want to just stay on this distributed cloud strategy a bit more, to kind of give some nuance out there, because one of the things that I've been tracking with is that you have dedicated regions, but you've also now announced Alloy, and I think you were alluding a bit to that in your last answer, but kind of would love for you to just sort of break that down. Being a little, how is that different? Maybe double click into that than say the traditional managed service offering.
Yeah, I mean, sort of the idea behind Alloy, Daniel, was that, if you look at similar, cloud is becoming a really important part of critical infrastructure in general, right? Similar to sort of telecommunications or utilities, right? These are very regulated markets where there's 3 or 4 providers in a single geography, right? Like, if you look at in the US, like we have Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, right? And they're regulated markets or utilities or energy. I think in the future, we truly believe cloud infrastructure is going to be critical infrastructure, right? Like your core banking services, your major emergency systems are all running on the cloud, right? That is critical infrastructure that needs to be regulated. And so what's going to happen is you're going to have countries across the globe that are going to want to regulate this, that are going to want to foster competition, and somehow control it, and have the right boundaries. And so really what we found is, every country is going to end up having 3 or 4 cloud providers, right? And today, well, at least there wasn't a model before Alloy where you could just buy a cloud and run it yourself. There was, people tried OpenStack, people tried other different types of things, but it didn't really work out, right? You need a commercial capability of an existing big four cloud provider like us, but you need to be able to have your people run it, operate it, manage it. But you also need tools around the cloud to be able to manage your business. How do you price it? How do you sell it? How do you support it? How do you operate it? Right. So what we do is we take our DRCC footprint, we give you resale rights, and then we add other parts of our business, which is why it makes sense for us as an application company. We bundle Fusion with it, so you can price your products, you can discount them, you can invoice your customers, you have a support system. So you essentially, in a box, get a cloud that you can manage, run, and operate and sell to your customers. And the value that you're providing is the fact that essentially, you as a customer, the end customer, is mandated that you must use a local cloud provider, right? So that's been a big success. We have I think over 20. Don't quote me on the number, but I think we have over 2 dozen Alloy customers now. Some are live, some are not yet. We announced this a couple of years ago. For example, one example is Fujitsu. NRI actually is a great example where they started with a DRCC for their internal workloads and then moved on to Alloy to build their financial applications and offer it to the government space in Japan. Right. So it's a great stepping stone for those customers and partners.
Well, Karan, that's really great progress. And I see, I've mentioned a few times that with the AI shift, with sovereign cloud shift, the ability for them to have sort of all the pieces that an Oracle can offer, but at the same time, really own it and manage it, not trying to build it and run it like an open source project, gives kind of all the tools required. And I could see that being really, really successful. I do got to stop there. It's been a lot of fun chatting to you, Karan. Congratulations on all the progress. It's going to be great to watch these next few years as the cloud Gen 3 in this terms of the next era, perhaps, continues to roll out, continues to scale, and continues to meet the customer, meet the market, meet the world where it is in such an exciting and rapid transition. Karan Batta, SVP, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Thanks so much for joining me here at the 6.5 Summit and this Cloud Infrastructure Track Spotlight keynote. We'll look forward to seeing you again soon, sending it back to you in the studio.